Capital IQ is a powerful database that provides corporate information. This includes facts, figures, and for the purposes of this video, stock information. To access Capital IQ, we're going to start at the NEIU Library's Business Information Sources Research Guide. From there, we'll navigate to company information. Almost all of the rest of the databases listed here can be accessed by using your NEIU NetID and password. Capital IQ is different. It requires you to create a separate registration and login. The one thing to keep in mind is that you do have to use your NEIU email address when you register. Please contact me if you have any issues with creating an account or logging in. Once we're in Capital IQ, we can start our search. The first way of finding stock information that I'm going to show you is by simply searching for a company. Let's try Mondelez. You can either enter the name of the company or, if you know it, the stock ticker. Keep in mind that when you search, you'll be presented with a variety of options, not all of which have stock information. This first hit lists the stock exchange and the stock ticker. That tells us that we're not looking at a subsidiary or a private company, which may be the case for others listed here without that information. Once we've selected the correct company from our search results, we're taken to the tear sheet. This has basic information about the business, including the website, the number of employees, industry classification, location, as well as some basic stock information that you don't even have to do anything else to find. It's right here. We also have some financials, index membership, and information about key professionals within the company. To access this company's stock information, we can navigate to the menu here on the left-hand side. Stock information is under Charting, and we have two options, Chart Builder or the Annotated Stock Chart. These are exactly the same, it's just that the Annotated Stock Chart provides annotations automatically, whereas you have to add them if you go to Chart Builder. Let's just start at Annotated Stock Chart. Here we see a chart with interesting stock information about Mondelez. This orange line represents the share pricing. Keep in mind that the share price listed is the closing price for that day. We also have the volume, shown here with these blue bars. And these diamonds up top are the annotations. We can hover over the annotations to see what they have to say. For example, on September 2nd, 2025, there is a conference. And on September 8th, there are some private placements. We have the ability to edit this chart in several ways. One way is to simply go to the bottom and under Share Pricing or Volume, we can go to Edit or Remove. If we're not interested in a piece of data, we would just click this trash can to get rid of it. Otherwise, we can click on Edit Series, and we have some options to make some changes. We could, for example, change the frequency of reporting from daily to weekly or monthly. We change the style of chart, and if we're working in a currency besides the one that we want, we could change that as well. It automatically defaults to local, and because this is the NASDAQ, this refers to the United States dollar. Let's just change the color. We could select this maroon, then click Apply, and the change has been made. At the top, we have the ability to add or remove other pieces of information. Under Metrics, we're taken to these quick metrics. These are commonly used pieces of data. We could either select one of these suggested metrics or search for a metric up here. Likewise, we can change the annotations that we see. You'll notice that under the default annotations, we do not have customer or product related information, nor do we have corporate filings. And there are further advanced options. If we wanted to select all annotations, we could do so here. And if we select the same box, the annotations go away. The chart builder here defaults to the last year. If we wanted to change this, we could select 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, year to date, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, or max. Let's go to max. Capital IQ has historic data for most companies, and for a fairly newly created company like Mondelez, we have information going back to the start. You can see here that the very first date represented in this chart is June 13th, 2001. For much older companies, we may not have the full historical data, so do keep that in mind. Let's go to year to date, because this will provide us with a fairly reasonable amount of information. Again, as you can see, this starts on December 30th, 2025, and continues to the present day that I'm recording this video. These charts are great, but if we want actual data, we do have the option of downloading it. To do that, click here on this Excel icon, and we'll see what this Excel spreadsheet looks like. Here's that same data in Excel format. Again, we can see the chart going back to the end of 2025 up until the present, as well as information about the stock exchange. It tells us what company we're specifically looking at. And then down here, below the chart, we have the actual data. Because we only selected volume and share pricing, that's all that's shown in this spreadsheet. This is a great way to manipulate the data and create your own charts or to compare different companies. Back in Capital IQ, we have a couple of other options next to this Excel button. Because you have created your own account, you may have some saved charts, which you can open here. And if you wanted to save this one in particular, you could just go to Save Chart. This allows you to return to projects that you started without having to download all of the data or worry about trying to reconstruct your search. Another way to get to the same information is to start in this menu bar and go to Charting. Again, you have the option of opening a saved chart or starting fresh with the chart builder. The chart builder will select companies that you've recently searched for, in this case Mondelez, or you can type in the stock ticker or company name. Let's try Kraft. Here we have Kraft Heinz. Again, we have the exchange and the stock ticker listed, and it tells us it's a public company. It's a great hit. Let's select that. We're then prompted to select which metrics we're interested in. We could do share pricing and volume just like we did before. And as before, we have the option to add more metrics. We could add the annotations or select a different date range. One feature I didn't show you in the previous screen is the compare feature. This allows us to compare two different companies to see how they're performing in relation to each other. Because Mondelez was a spin-off of Kraft Heinz, it might be interesting to compare the two. All we have to do is click Compare, and type in Mondelez, then select Add. By default, we're given the share pricing, and if we wanted to add further metrics, we could do so. Let's get rid of the volume for Kraft Heinz because it's distracting. All we have to do again is to select this trash can. And we're left with the share pricing for the two different companies. One thing to keep in mind is that instead of prices, we're provided with percentages. So we can see as we hover that the share pricing for this selected date, July 8th, 2025, is negative 10.65%. And we can compare that with Mondelez. Again, this is relative to an axis of 0. So the rises and falls are percentage-based, not real numbers. As before, we have the option of exporting these charts to Excel. One nice feature of the chart builder is that we don't only have to look for companies. We could look up lists, indices, interest rates, and other pieces of information. If we were interested in the S&P 500, for example, we could build a chart based on that. The final way to find stock data on Capital IQ is by using the screening tool. This is a very powerful but very complicated tool, and we're only going to touch on some of its capabilities today. Because we're interested in stock prices, we'll navigate under Screening Companies. What makes this screening tool so powerful is that you have the ability to search many companies all at once. One way to do this would be to search for companies that fall within a specific industry. And we can do that by clicking on Industry Classifications. Here we're taken to an expanding menu of the industry types that Capital IQ uses. I've created a whole video on how exactly Capital IQ classifies industries, and I'll provide a link to that in the description of this video. Let's navigate to Consumer Staples, then press plus, and we're taken from the sector into submenus of industries. We could go to food, beverage, and tobacco, and then select only companies whose main industry is the production of food products. Once we've selected that, we can click Add Criteria. Here we see that there are over 456,000 companies listed as results, and that's because this is searching global companies. We can seriously narrow this down by selecting an exchange. We have the ability to select major US exchanges, global major exchanges, and if we scroll down, we could select, say, only the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. Let's select all major exchanges, click this right arrow to add it, then add the criteria. We now have a much more manageable list of hits at 86. Again, we could select many metrics here, but because we're specifically focusing on stock information, that's what we'll look at. Here under financial information, we could go to stock performance/volume, and we're given some options. Here under stock price volume, we have the ability to expand that or simply to click on it. And we can select a number of different pieces of data. We could choose the day closing price, 52-week high, so on and so forth. Let's just do the day closing price. One thing to keep in mind is that this works as a filter, so we do need to enter a value here under the greater than. If we just select greater than 0, we select all stocks with a positive price. We have the option of filtering down by less than, between, equals, so on and so forth. And then under time frame, we have the ability to select the latest minus 1 day, minus 1 week, so on and so forth. Because this screening tool is not specifically designed to return large amounts of stock data, we're only going to get that single piece of data. So the latest closing price. We can add that to our criteria. And now that we've selected food products as the industry classification, major US exchanges as our exchange, and the latest day closing price, we can click on View Results. Here we see the first 50 companies out of 82 with the day closing price. So we have the Seaboard Corporation, Hershey, Marzetti, Seneca, etc., etc. As before, we have the option of exporting this data into Excel, and all we have to do is click Go, and that will take us to an Excel spreadsheet. Again, the company screening tool is very powerful, but it's not the best place to look for stock prices. It's just available if you're interested in looking at, say, which stocks closed highest on any given day. If you want further assistance using the screening tool, you can navigate to Help, and Capital IQ has a very thorough help section. One final option that I didn't discuss is the ability to link Capital IQ to Excel. This is a downloadable plugin. And again, this is far beyond what we have the time to discuss today. Just know that it's available, and some of your classmates have used it to great success. So, if you're interested in finding stock data, Capital IQ is a great place to start. It can be somewhat complicated to use, so if you need assistance, either use Capital IQ's built-in help or get in touch with me. Here on the Business Information Resources Guide, you have my contact information, my email address, and if you click on this ribbon, the ability to set up a one-on-one research consultation with me.